Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the annual meeting of the Delaware ACLU. My name is Ariel Groswith, and I am the ACLU of Delaware's president. I'd like to call the meeting to order. As many of you may know, the ACLU of Delaware is part of a national network of ACLU organizations across the country. This week, we received very tragic news of the killing of the president of the Mississippi ACLU, Crystal Welch. We are sending love and support to Crystal's loved ones and the Mississippi ACLU. Next, I'd like to remind everyone of our organization's mission, the reason we're all here today, and the reason that we all do this work and support the ACLU of Delaware. Our mission is to preserve and advance civil liberties and civil rights in the state of Delaware as enshrined in the United States and Delaware constitutions through education and advocacy without consideration of political association. And this year in particular, I want to point out that although our mission does not say anything about democracy, civil liberties are inextricably linked to a strong foundation of democracy. So the protection of one means that we have to protect the other as well to avoid erosion. I want to thank all of our supporters, members, donors, and amazing staff for all of their passion and great work, which you're about to hear from our staff themselves. And next, I'll pass the meeting on to Mike Brickner, our executive director. Mike?
Thank you so much, Ariel. I just really love your passion for our work. I love working with you, and just such a treat to have you as our board president. And speaking of treats, you all are in for one tonight because we're going to be talking about the ACLU of Delaware's mission, the work that we're doing here in the first state, and how we're advancing civil liberties each and every day. Just a couple of housekeeping things for you. Number one, you might have seen in the chat that we do have both captions available and ASL interpretation. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, you should see those options there for you. Just go ahead and select those if you need American Sign Language or closed captions. In addition, we want to hear questions from you. So if you have a burning question that you want to ask one of our staff or board members or coalition partners, go down to that Q&A function and type in your question. If we have time, we will get to it and see if we can have an even deeper conversation with you. So please use that Q&A section. As I mentioned, you're going to be hearing from a lot of our closest collaborators, our coalition partners that we work with every day. You're going to be hearing from our staff who are working on our education equity issues, voting rights, immigrants' rights, and smart justice. But in addition to having a wonderful board president, we also have a really wonderful board treasurer, Tom O'Brien, who you're going to hear from next. He is our foundation treasurer. He's also chair of what I like to think of as the coolest committee on the board, the finance committee. So Tom is going to talk a little bit more about our budget and our current financial state and tell you a little bit more about that. I'll pass it over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks for everyone for coming into our meeting this evening. It's my pleasure as Tom O'Brien, the treasurer of the ACLU Foundation, to report on the financials of the chapter. So if you would put up the first slide that we have prepared, I'll talk you through it a bit. The state of the chapter, thanks to you, our donors, supporters, and volunteers, is very strong. What you should look at is kind of that green bar there. And as at the end of the last fiscal year on March 31st, the chapter has almost $3 million in net equity. Those are funds that are available to us to invest in civil liberties in Delaware. And we as a board take the stewardship of those funds very seriously, but we're excited about where those fundings will be going to in the next year. If you go to the next page, you can see what our investment in civil liberties in Delaware is going to be for the next year. And where you would look here is kind of that orangey red line, which shows our investment year over year, which the board felt confident approving a record investment in civil liberties in Delaware for the coming year. Over $2 million that we will use in an election year on items that Mike described, such as smart justice, education equity, immigration and reproductive rights, and others. And it'll be my pleasure as well as yours to hear about those programs in the next hour or so. So as a board, we're profoundly grateful for your generosity and to the great staff that you're going to hear from who will be deploying these funds to help civil liberties in Delaware. So Mike, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Tom. Again, y'all see why I love Tom so much. Again, the work that we're doing is only due to you all. We want to invest in civil liberties. We know that there's so much to do here in Delaware. And so it's really only due to the generosity of all of you who make that possible. And you're going to be hearing from a lot of our new staff and partners who are able to do so much more. So first up, we're going to jump into education equity issues, which is one of my favorite topics. And again, you all are in for, I think, some really wonderful information. You're going to be hearing, first off, from Shannon Griffin, our senior policy advocate with the ACLU of Delaware, but we also have someone from our second cohort of our education equity ambassadors, Rashana Pierce, who is going to talk a little bit more about her experience. And what's going to be really nice about tonight is this is going to be kind of a conversation. I'm going to throw out a couple questions to Shannon and Rashana as we go along, and you'll get to hear a little bit more about their work. So Shannon, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about the ACLU of Delaware's education equity programming?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Mike. And hello to everyone joining us tonight. So the ACLU of Delaware has worked for many years addressing inequities in Delaware's public schools. First, by addressing the school to prison pipeline through policy change. And second, by assisting schools develop or deepen their comprehensive restorative practices. And I'm excited because our new initiative, Education Equity Ambassadors, capitalizes on an opportunity to work across 3 school districts thanks to the Wilmington Learning Collaborative. And our theory of change for the Education Equity Ambassadors is really simple. It's to educate families on how they can navigate the school system, analyzing their school data, including things like achievement, discipline, equity, reviewing school budgets, and to help them to mobilize as a group to make sure that their voices are heard by increasing the numbers of parents participating on decision-making teams across the school districts. And then third, by providing additional support so that they can help to inform other parents, thereby building an even stronger coalition.
That's amazing, Shannon. And Shannon mentioned how important our education equity ambassadors are, and we are so fortunate to have one here. Rashana, so tell me a little bit about why did you become an education equity ambassador, and in what ways has becoming an EEA helped you to be more informed and be more engaged?
Thank you. Well, I actually stumbled into the Education Equity Ambassador table at a family engagement event at my son's school at Warner Elementary. And I was immediately interested, and I decided to sign on because I was honestly still reeling over an experience with my son's school last year when I learned that he might have a reading disability. So upon assessing my son, his therapist came to me, and he was pretty shaken up and alarmed. And he discovered that my son's fell in the assessment that he gave him in ELA put my son in the 0.3 percentile amongst his peers in reading in ELA. His therapist was so alarmed, he urged me to speak with my son's school immediately and have him evaluated. But when I brought this to his school's attention, there was little to no sense of urgency around it. We ended up requesting an evaluation 3 or 4 times before he would finally receive one, just 1 month before the end of the school year. And after it was completed and all said and done, the school determined that my son didn't have any issues reading and he didn't need any additional help. And at that moment, I was extremely shocked and dismayed at that conclusion. And I thought that just can't be accurate. But at the time, I just didn't feel empowered to ask questions. The team seemed like they were the professionals, and I didn't have the knowledge or the wherewithal to know where to go. So my goal in becoming an education equity ambassador is to help other parents navigate the education system so that they don't have that same feeling of helplessness and confusion that I felt in that situation.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much, empowering the people on the front lines and really working with parents who are experiencing these things every single day. That is so great. And again, we're in the second cohort. Shannon, the question I always get from folks out in the community is, okay, ACLU, you're doing great work, but what can I do? How can I get involved? So how can people tune in to your education equity work?
Glad you asked. We're always in recruitment mode. So as you stated, we are ending our second cohort. The third cohort will start in September. And if you are a parent, a caregiver, grandmom, auntie, in one of the 9 Wilmington Learning Collaborative schools, we encourage you to go to our website at www.aclude.org and go to our interest form and complete it. And just as a reminder, the 9 schools that are in the Wilmington Learning Collaborative are Harlan Elementary, Johnson Elementary, Pulaski Early Education Center, Shortridge Academy, Stubbs Early Education Center, the Bayard School, the Bancroft School, which will soon be the March Pritchard Academy, Warner Elementary, and William C. Lewis. So if you're a parent, guardian in any of those schools, we would love to help you have you join us and help us build out this powerful coalition for change.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And I mean, again, it's just really amazing. We are able to do trainings with the Education Equity Ambassadors. We've now have a whole cadre of activists who are advocating for their own kids, but also going to these Wilmington Learning Collaborative meetings, talking to their superintendents, talking to their teachers, and that's really how we build power and change things in our community. So really exciting. And again, I love the investment. Again, we provide stipends for parents who are doing this. We help to pay if you need babysitting or transportation services, all of that good stuff. So please do apply if you are a parent in the Wilmington area. So up next, we're going to hop over to an issue I am really passionate about, and that is voting rights. It is an election year this year, and we have a lot of important races, not just the president, but up and down the ballot. We just finished a very important school board election yesterday. And we have a lot of work to do in the voting rights arena that you're going to learn about, because Delaware is falling a little bit behind the times in terms of the rights that we have for our citizens to be able to cast their vote and have their voice heard at the ballot box. So you're going to be hearing from a couple of really great activists and experts. So first off, we're going to have Andrew Bernstein, who is our Cozen Voting Rights Fellow here at the ACLU of Delaware. You're also going to be hearing from Isha Shah, who's our Communications Coordinator, Melissa Bryson, our Development Director, and we have one of our coalition partners from the Delaware Voting Rights Coalition, Vienna Cavazos. So you're going to be hearing from each of them. Andrew, I'm going to start with you because you are like the encyclopedia of everything going on here in the state of Delaware on voting rights. So can you give us just a short overview? What's happening with voting rights in Delaware, and why should, ACLU supporters be concerned about it?
Thank you, Mike. That's far too kind. And thank you, everyone who's here today to hear about voting rights in Delaware, because as Mike pointed out, we are falling, unfortunately, a little bit behind other states, with a little bit perhaps being an understatement. So if we take a look at some key voting areas, and we're going to think of 4 of them. Universal vote by mail, so that's being able to cast a ballot by mail without an excuse. Early in-person voting, same-day registration, that's being able to go to the polls and register to vote on the day of the election. And felony disenfranchisement, that's the phenomenon by which people who have felony convictions may lose their right to vote. So if we hold in mind those 4 voting rights issues, and then we imagine a Venn diagram with 4 circles, 4 terrible circles. Circle 1 contains states that do not allow people universal vote by mail. Circle 2 contains states that do not have same-day registration. Circle 3 contains states without early in-person voting, and Circle 4 contains states which do not allow all formerly incarcerated people to vote after completing their sentences. At that intersection of all 4 horribles, the bullseye of the voter disenfranchisement Venn diagram, you are only going to see Delaware, Alabama, and Mississippi. And I think that's really shocking for people to hear. I think people imagine Delaware as being perhaps on the outskirts of disenfranchisement, but really we are at the center, and a lot needs to change in order to move out of that center. And it's not just abstract. The practical effect of being in that disenfranchisement bullseye is that we have tens of thousands of voters who are disenfranchised, primarily young people, people of color, and people who've been impacted by the criminal legal system. So we didn't get here overnight. We actually used to have some of these things. If people have long memories, they might remember being able to vote early in person, be able to cast a mail ballot without an excuse. But due to partisan lawsuits, we had those laws as well as our same-day registration law declared unconstitutional. Additionally, we have had legislative gridlock because these issues being declared unconstitutional. The only way to get them through now is through a constitutional amendment. And we unfortunately have not been able to muster the support to this point to get the 2/3 majority in both chambers in consecutive sessions in order to get these reforms through again. So I apologize for the gloomy background there, but my colleagues get to impart the much brighter news about what we're doing about this and how people can support our work.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're kind of wearing a dark color, but our next person is wearing yellow. So she's going to be our sunshine here because, it is a little scary, right? We know here in the first state, we value democracy and participation and engagement, but we're not living up to that with our laws. And so, Isha, you're going to talk now a little bit. Where are we headed with this campaign? What and why does there need to be such a focused long-term plan to accomplish these goals?
Yeah, I'm really glad I get to do the exciting part. Sorry, Andrew. But I think he laid a really great groundwork for sort of why we're doing what we're doing. And our hope is basically to pass these reforms in the form of launching a long-term voting rights constitutional amendment campaign. This is going to be something that is a multi-year campaign because the primary goal is the passage of a constitutional amendment, which of course requires time and organizing, therefore kind of needing that extra time and being multi-year. That's also why we're prepared on the front end to take on some of these things that will take on multiple years. For example, planning long-term communications associated with the campaign, advocacy and organizing goals, building the people power with all of you and everyone else to make this campaign successful and in the end successful and possible. So we're prefacing all of this work right now with our voting rights focus just in general. Like Mike had mentioned, we had our school board elections recently, and with our upcoming primary and general elections, we are out there kind of including how to vote guides and what to expect as a voter and presenting candidate platforms and social media videos. And so we believe that's sort of that one part of creating an informed voter and then utilizing all of that people power to work on this campaign. And so we're so excited to work on moving through this long-term constitutional amendment campaign focused on the passage of like I said, a constitutional amendment forward, and to work with all of you, volunteers, coalition partners, one of which you'll hear from soon, to make this all possible. So I'll pass it back to Mike.
Amazing. Thank you, Isha. I get so excited about this work. And, before we hop on the next person, I just want to mention again, don't forget to use the Q&A section. I already see one question in there from one of our supporters. I think we're going to be able to get to it towards the end here, and we'll give you an update on that important case. But if you have other questions, please use that Q&A section. But I'm so excited about what Isha and Andrew are talking about. And again, they're two of our key staff members who are working on this big multi-year campaign. That's what we do at the ACLU. We don't give up, we dig in. And Andrew and Isha are just such important parts of that. And Isha's right, we're going to be scaling up. We're going to be doing more things. We're talking about hiring on more people, bringing on an organizer to help with all of our voting rights stuff. And as the executive director, when I hear those things, I always think about the money and the time and all of the things that we need to do that. So Melissa, we're going to hear a little bit from you next. You're a development director. So how can people support this work, both with their time, but also with their treasure?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Well, first, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's shown up to listen to us tonight. And just thank you for supporting the work of the ACLU in whatever way you do, whether you sign petitions, show up for lobby days, you're a donor, you're an ambassador, maybe this is your first time learning about us. Thank you for being here tonight. It matters, and we are appreciative. So as my colleague stated, this campaign is big. We need all hands on deck to get this important voting rights work done, and we can't run out of steam. This is not going to be a short, quick solution. This is really the long term. So we're thrilled to have Andrew on board championing this work, and all of you here to learn the facts and how to take action. As Isha mentioned, volunteering is one way you can get engaged, but it is not the only way. So by making a tax-deductible donation to the ACLU of Delaware, that ensures that we're able to do this important work that you'll hear about tonight, this essential and vital voting rights campaign, and it also prepares us for the unexpected. We try to plan as much as we can, but we all know that things come up. And when you are able to provide sustaining support to the ACLU of Delaware, we are able to address those things when they happen. Even more, if you're able to consider it, please consider a multi-year gift for this voting rights campaign. So as said, we need to pass this constitutional amendment in 2 consecutive sessions. That means that when you are able to give a gift over multiple years, you're making sure we're not just able to get things started, but we're able to get things finished. If you're interested in discussing a gift over multiple years, please send me an email at mbryson, BRYSON, @aclu-de.org, and we can chat. It's really important not just to get us through the constitutional amendment process, but the education portion. This campaign, after we pass the amendments, we have to teach everyone what is law, how can we vote. So whether you're able to engage this year or next year or a year after that, or all of them, I welcome you to think about how you can get engaged and reach out. So if you want to see every vote count in our Delaware elections, consider a donation tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Again, we have a lot of work to do to get Delaware out from the company of Mississippi and Alabama, right? I think we can do better in the first state. But luckily, we are also not in this alone, right? It's not just the ACLU working on these issues, but we also have a strong network of coalition partners. And here in the state of Delaware, we have the Delaware Voting Rights Coalition, which is a really vibrant group. They meet bi-weekly, talking about how to advance democracy forward. And we're really lucky to have Vienna here, who is a member of that. So Vienna, can you talk a little bit about what is your role in the Voting Rights Coalition, and why are you so passionate about this constitutional rights campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Mike said, my name is Vienna. I am the hub coordinator for Generation Vote Sussex County, and I'm also a member of the Delaware Voting Rights Coalition. A little bit about Gen Vote very quickly. We're an intersectional youth-led national movement that's fighting for everyone's right to vote and a just from democracy for every single person. And just like Andrew said, we've been seeing the rollback of voting rights here in Delaware, and we're one of the lowest states. That's not good. It's a fact we can no longer deny. Voting rights and our democracy here in the first state are under threat. And with early voting, absentee voting, and same-day registration and questions, our voting rights are weakening by the day. And we can no longer stand idly by. That's why Gen Vote Sussex supports this constitutional amendment to expand voting access and strengthen our state's democracy. Voting is a pillar of our democratic society. From school boards to gubernatorial elections, voting makes our state stronger. Personally, yesterday, I exercised my civic duty for the first time in my life by voting in my town's school board elections. And as a young person who is also in the LGBTQ community, a person of color, seeing how those elections directly impact the lived experiences of students and how it directly impacts my community is amazing. And it's vital now more than ever to make voting accessible to youth and everyone across Delaware. And we can do that through this constitutional amendment.
Amazing, Vienna. I got some goosebumps there thinking about first time voting in a school board election. I love that so much. And I also love that Vienna is representing Sussex County because, again, we are a statewide organization. I love that we have coalition partners down in Sussex. And speaking of Sussex County, we are about ready to dive into an issue where we are doing a ton of organizing and work downstate right now, and that is the issue of immigrants' rights. So this is, I think an extremely important issue here in the state of Delaware. We've seen the number of immigrants grow quite a bit in the last several decades here in Delaware, but it's growing even more rapidly now. But we're also seeing attempts to curtail immigrants' rights really ramp up nationwide. And so we know that we have to do more to make sure that people are protected and really integrated into our communities and feel welcome in our communities. And so I'm so happy that we are going to be hearing from Helen Salida, who is our campaign manager based in Sussex County. And then two of our immigrants' rights organizers. We have Charito Calvachi Mateco, who is who is our Spanish-speaking organizer, and then we have Hulda Belange, who is our Haitian Creole-speaking organizer. So Helen, I'm going to start with you. Why is the ACLU of Delaware focusing on immigrants' rights and particularly in Sussex County?
Yeah, happy to talk a little bit about that. Thank you for the intro, Mike. So Delaware has seen a rapid growth in immigration and immigrants moving here, like Mike has said. Right now, 1 out of every 10 Delaware residents is actually an immigrant, and they make up such a vital part of our communities, and they really strengthen our state, and we are really fortunate to have them. But despite this, we know that one's status really impacts so many different aspects of their life and really intersects with a lot of the issues that our office is already working on, but just sort of adds an additional kind of layer of complexity and enough challenges and enough potential for civil rights violations. And with all of that in mind, we've really stepped up kind of the immigrants' rights work that we're doing, and we've really kind of focused in on Sussex County. So Sussex has really seen a rapid growth and influx of immigrants. We have people who came here from Guatemala, from Mexico, from Haiti, from El Salvador, and I know that there are other countries that I'm forgetting in that list. They have chosen to make Sussex home. And so part of the reason we're focusing on Sussex is because that's where the people are, and we want to be, in communities that we are trying to reach. And so we know that because there are just more immigrants, there's more need for translation services and interpretation services down here in Sussex, whether that's for government buildings or in schools, or for help kind of navigating the services and systems that everyone else just kind of doesn't really think about as they're going about their day. But there are other reasons to focus in on Sussex County. Some of the biggest industries down here are agriculture and poultry plants. And we know that these jobs in these industries are dangerous. They work long hours, they are low paying, they don't provide benefits. And these jobs are primarily worked by immigrants because no one else wants to do them. But despite this, in code, right now, agriculture workers and domestic workers are exempt from worker protection. And that's not right. We want them to have the rights everyone else has because they need it almost more than anyone else does. On top of that, there is a huge housing crisis down here in Sussex County with a real lack of affordable housing. So it's very common because so many immigrants work low-paying jobs that you'll have many families living together in very cramped conditions in order to be able to barely cover the rent for where they're staying. And even with so many hands all putting into the pot, people still are living in really precarious situations. That's why we fought so hard to get right to representation passed. And that's why we are now, with the help of the amazing organizers who you guys are going to hear from, are out in the community, canvassing, tabling, talking to as many groups as we possibly can so that people know that this program exists, it's there to help them. So those are just some of the reasons we are really focusing in on Sussex County, connecting with the work that's being done, and really starting to talk about what people's rights are and how, if there are problems, we are here to help. We want to help as much as we possibly can.
Amazing. Thank you, Helen. And up next, is Chirito. And I always smile when I see Chirito because, like, when I first moved to Delaware and I was like, oh, I want to work on some immigration issues, people were like, have you met Chirito? Because she is working on all of them. And Chirito, this really gets to you've been working on issues in the Latin community for many, many years, right? You have long and storied activist history. What's drawing you to the work of the ACLU of Delaware now?
That's right. Thank you. You're right that we have been able to tell the story. In fact, I have served on the ACLU Delaware board for 9 years, which have let me see this historic moment in which the ACLU of Delaware is dedicating resources and staff to address the needs of the underserved members of the immigrant community in Delaware, which includes the Latinx community and the Haitian Creole community in Delaware. I really enjoy the privilege now of being part of the staff as the immigrant rights organizer and to work with the best team on the state. Since you might have come on board, you at the ACLU fund grants so that the Votamos We Vote coalition will have an online presence with a website in Spanish and English, train grassroots people to be speakers, and made it possible to have a Spanish radio segment to engage the community interviewing Latino immigrants all year long. Additionally, I love to tell how Mike has come with the legal staff to meet the grassroots community in Sussex County. And now Helen Salita is in charge of the statewide campaigns. This work is critical to making sure that people not only know their rights, but know that there are organizations in Delaware to protect their civil rights. We're working on many different problems facing the immigrant community in Sussex. One of them addresses directly the critical issue of eviction and housing and then the right to representation. Our Clean State campaign is making sure that immigrant communities know about the ongoing impeachment efforts in Delaware and how this will impact people and their path to citizenship. Again, the support given to the Votamos We Vote coalition means that we can spread the solidarity and the cultural context of Latinos, Latinas, US citizens, for whom their voice is not only their own voice, but the voice of the voiceless 35,000 undocumented immigrants. Latinas, Latino immigrants are my heroes. They experience life or death at the border, and they persist in living here to be able to contribute to this country. Despite not having the ability to vote, they are not powerless, though. They can talk with friends and family who are citizens about the issues and making sure that they have a voting plan to cast their vote. This is how those who can't vote are still able to have a voice in our democracy. And ACLU of Delaware is here to reassure them that yes, they can do this indeed.
Thank you so much, Charito. And of course, we have the other part of the dynamic duo, or I guess it's a terrific trio with Helen as well. But we have Hulda here, who is really doing a lot of great work in the Haitian Creole community. We're going to be at Haitian Flag Day this weekend. I am super excited. But Hulda, tell us, what are some of the most pressing issues for the Haitian Creole community that you're looking forward to addressing in this new role?
Thank you so much, Mike. Hopefully I'll see everybody there at the Haitian Flag Day to taste some Haitian food and dance to some compa. But one of the things that is very pressing for the Haitian community, given that yesterday, President Biden had just put a new factor out for the Haitian and Cubans to come to the United States. One of the things that is very important is that during the time that a lot of Haitians were fleeing from Haiti because of the, corruption in Haiti and with all the violence from the gangs, a lot of Haitians had to flee towards Mexico, to Mexico's border to get, peace of mind and to support their families the best way that they can. And even though a lot of them lost family along the way, but they were able to find strength and unity along with people who were going through that same journey with them. Pregnant mothers, people who are, they were just by themselves when they left Haiti, but coming towards this journey, they were able to create a family, create a bond with strangers along the way. And now with this amazing program of ACLU, and I'm so happy that I found this, this program, because it's helping people be knowledgeable, be aware of what's going on, be aware of the rights that they have. And thank you to Helen, she's making me even dig more into the issues of my own people. It's important the fact that while we're helping, we can't help the way that we want, but feed the people to what they need, what's important for them physically, mentally. As I was a guidance counselor in one of the high schools, and it blew my mind the amount of Haitians that needed support, in the schools, even for dealing with their teachers, because the teachers did not understand their mindset. A lot of the kids, they left Haiti, and the mindset that they came in with into the United States, it was very strict. It was either one way or another. And the teachers were not trying to meet them halfway to help them understand the new math lessons, or even with the language barrier. And it's very important that we find a way to create that safe haven for the students, because while they're learning, they're feeling neglected in a way, because no one is trying to understand them. It's okay, clock in, get this work done, and then leave, wait for the next day. So we want to make sure that while the kids are in school, they're learning, they're feeling safe, and that if the kids need a translator, if the parents have to come to a PTA meeting or parent teachers conference, there's a translator there to help them, get the message across. Because if your student is failing and you're just giving 1 or 2 words, that doesn't really help what's going on with their education. And the issues, they're multiple, they're piling up. But as long as we're able to help one step at a time, it helps us bring down the barriers. It helps us bring down the big wall of whatever the issue is. So while we're helping with the children in school, we're helping with parents who are trying to help their families the best way that they can. I've been a translator for over 10 years. And one of the things that I was learning is that I had to go to Pennsylvania simply because, the doctor's offices, they don't want to have a family member to do this. They wanted to make sure that there was a non-biased person there to make sure that the family understood what the health issue was, if you need to get this medication, this is the side effect. And in Delaware, it surprises me that Delaware doesn't have it. So it's either you come with your own translator or you're on your own. And not many people have that accessibility to get someone to translate something to them, or if the phone line isn't working, well then, oops. So as long as we're able to make these things happen and help these families one step at a time, there's a lot of things that we can help with, And another issue that Isha mentioned, and I'm so happy that she did, and also Charito mentioned it, having an online presence, you would be surprised how much of a help it can be. Because a lot of people are coming from Haiti, they're not aware of the laws, not aware of the do's and don'ts in the country, and then they end up being victim and they're sent to jail and they don't understand why they're in jail. To them, they just think like, oh, I changed the lane and that's why I'm in jail. No, you need to know why. You need to know your rights. You have to know what are the things that you can do to protect yourself as you're driving, as you're just going across the street, because you were jaywalking. Okay, that's not a reason to be sent to jail. Be knowledgeable. And as we're doing these things, we're gonna be able to teach them, okay, the right ways of driving and making sure that they have the proper documentation. Okay, and if there isn't a reason for me to get out of the car, these are the rights that I know I have, and you can't touch me, or, like the song says. So while we're doing this, we have to make sure that the Haitian community is aware of what's going on and making sure that they understand their rights for, being a renter. And while I've been canvassing with Helen, a lot of the Haitians, they have this question mark on their face, like, I didn't know, I wasn't aware. Because they're living in this shack. It's a danger zone for them, and because that they just need a place to lay their heads and have a roof over their heads, then they're just trying to get by for a day. So getting them to understand their rights to representation is going to help them a whole lot. So if I keep going on with this, we'll be here all night. But as long as we are pushing out the rights to representation and we're pushing out the online presence so every Haitian can get their information for today, tomorrow, and that way their kids can know their rights, we're going in the right direction. So thank you, ACLU. And see you guys on the 18th for the Haitian Flag Day. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, I'm excited. And you can't help but get energized by what Hulda and Charito are talking about. And what I love about it is you heard them both mention education equity issues, voting rights issues, smart justice issues, showing that all of our work is intersectional, right? And that we have a whole team of people working on these issues to try and tackle them here in this first state because they are all interconnected. So we're going to move on to our last section. Save the best for last, right? We've got our Smart Justice team coming up here. So you're going to hear a little bit from one of our great legal fellows, Casey Danoff. You're also going to be hearing from our campaign manager, Vonda Smack. Crystal Chapman, who is one of our amazing Smart Justice ambassadors, and Mike Bartley, who works really close with us on the Clean Slate Delaware project, who is head of Heads Up 302. So Casey, let me go ahead and start with you. There's been a lot of talk about police issues, particularly, and how can we, improve police practices here in Delaware. And one of the issues I always hear about is transparency. And sometimes we run into that opaque blue wall. So can you kind of talk a little bit about why FOIA access is an issue that we've been encountering in Smart Justice, and how we can expect to continue hitting those barriers in the community's ability to access information?
Sure. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. This is very amazing to hear how everything connects. And I think one thing that I kept hearing everyone say in this conversation tonight is this importance of knowledge and information, and how that's really at the center of all of this. So zooming out for a second, FOIA, or the Freedom of Information Act, is an act in Delaware that allows the public to have access to public records. Every state has one. There's one at the federal level. And what it's supposed to be is a pro-disclosure statute where the default is that you have access to public records to make sure that your government is serving you. But what we've actually seen happening in Delaware is that there's a narrow set of exceptions that make it so that the government doesn't have to disclose records in certain little specific circumstances. But in Delaware, we've seen that agencies across the board have been reading those exceptions as overly broad and as barring access to far more information than we believe the reading necessarily demands. And this is certainly a problem with police accountability, and where we don't have transparency, it's really hard to hold our government officials accountable. But we also have seen this across the board, across many state agencies, both at the state level, at more local levels. And we've also been approached from outside organizations, from journalists, from individuals, from other advocacy organizations who have reported facing the same sort of stonewalling in terms of accessing this public information, which again presents a huge concern for holding our officials accountable. And so what we've done to try to chip away at this very broad reading and broad blanket on accessing this public information is we filed a lawsuit working with the Delaware Call against the Delaware State Police, where we requested a list of some very basic information about the police force, the names of the people who work there, basic demographic info. We were met with no responsive information, and we're trying to challenge that so that we can start narrowing the reading of those exceptions in case law. And this is really important as a big picture because, again, information is power, and good case law on this front might encourage other agencies to start whittling down their reading as well to, again, give the public information that the public is certainly owed under statute. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but I think this is a great first step.
Oh my gosh, Casey, I could geek out with you about FOIA laws all day long. And remember, information is power, right? So super important stuff. Next up, Vonda. So you are our campaign manager. So tell me a little bit, what's your role and what are some of your goals for this year for the Smart Justice campaign?
All right, thank you, Mike. Hello, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Vonda Smack, campaign manager. My role is to basically analyze, track priority issues and legislation. Right now, we are currently working on SS2 for SB4, which is probation reform for Delaware. We do need this reform in Delaware. We've had a very strategic, list of events and different things that we're doing throughout the state of Delaware to get this bill passed. We have been working on it for approximately about 3.5 years, and I feel really good about the passage of this bill. Some of my goals this year, to be honest with you, is to continue to build a stronger coalition. The coalition is so important to the work that I do here with the ACLU. That way we're able to help them and build with their advocacy issues as well and be able to advocate. It's like a little network when we all work together. Another thing, another one of my goals is to continue to look for and recruit future smart justice ambassadors. We have a growing number of smart justice ambassadors who are doing amazing work and advocacy throughout the whole state of Delaware. We look very good throughout the whole state, to be honest. And I would like to take some of our lead smart justice ambassadors and help groom some of their leadership skills to become future leaders within the state of Delaware. So that is what I'm going to be doing. And if you haven't already, we do have an action form for those of you that are listening that is being dropped in the comments. Make sure you take action on that action form, please. And thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Vonda. And I'm actually going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here momentarily. So one of our questions in the Q&A, somebody asked about the status of the lawsuit that we filed around loitering and soliciting. And so the update to that is we have filed partial motions to dismiss some of the claims as saying we believe we're going to win them, but they are pending. Other claims are pending discovery. So we're essentially waiting for the court to move forward. But Vonda, you were a big activist in the city of Dover, and Dover was trying to enact some loitering and soliciting laws. Why are those so bad for justice reform issues?
I can tell you why they're so bad. During the time when the city of Dover was trying to pass a soliciting and loitering cases, during a time when, I mean, all throughout the state, we have a homeless issue. The bill actually targeted marginalized people as well as the unsheltered, okay? And then just when you look at the whole ordinance, I mean, if a mother was dropping her child off to get a haircut and she was sitting out in her car, she would be subject to a fine because she'd rather sit in the car and wait for her son. And most of this would have been carried out throughout areas that are marginalized, meaning like, you know, in our impoverished neighborhoods, downtown Dover. And so we advocated, and we advocated strongly, and we continue to keep showing up. And we were outside of their meetings with bullhorns, and we, you know, we shut it down. It did not happen, and it felt so good.
Amazing. And a person who is also part of that, I believe, is the next person I'm going to talk to, who is Crystal Chapman, who's also a Dover resident. And, you know, she's been a longtime Smart Justice Ambassador. You heard Vonda talk about how we are trying to build people up as activists, and Crystal was one of those people out there helping us advocate against that law in Dover. So Crystal, tell me a little bit about why did you become a Smart Justice Ambassador, and what activities have you been a part of, and how has your experience been as a Smart Justice Ambassador?
Good evening, everyone. I became a Smart Justice Ambassador due to COVID and divine intervention. COVID made me reassess what I should be doing within my communities. Just living in Kent County and just seeing some of the things that our people were going through. And I have to clarify, I am a lead Smart Justice Ambassador for the last 2 years. And some of the activities that I've actually been on, I was actually part of the SB 149 Police Accountability and Transparency campaign. Vonda calls me the campaign queen for our SJAs. I've also done for expungements. I've worked with John Reynolds and Javon Rich on expungements. I am one of the persons that will be going to Philly in June for the expungement convening weekend. I'm very excited. And I am very, very, very passionate about probation reform. My family has had to navigate the probation system, just an unjustified system with family members of mine. And I believe as far as reforming the probation system, it will give offenders that have made mistakes in their lives a leg up for that second chance. I've worked with Hanif Salam when we started. I've been an ambassador since October of 2021. I am currently under the guidance of Vonda Smack. We've known each other 20 plus years. But we are on a full throttle campaign to change the barbaric laws of Delaware that disenfranchised people are under, that they're not being able to advance themselves. And as long as I am able to do this kind of work underneath the ACLU and whomever comes in and all the people we can garner to fight the struggles of disenfranchised people, I'm going to march along. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Again, so hyped up for that. And I'm excited because we are ending our Smart Justice section with another Mike, Mike Bartley, who is founder and head of Heads Up 302, a really great organization that we work with in our Clean Slate Delaware Coalition. So, Mike, can you share the importance of expungements and how the recent expansion under the Clean Slate laws are going to affect our community?
Well, the importance of it is just, just getting the community, I hear everybody talking about awareness. Awareness is key, knowledge is key. For the 290,000 people who are eligible for expungements and pardons, you can take one of those off because I got mine. I think they actually gave me my my pardon. The governor gave me my pardon in December. So what's that? 289,000 now. But the importance of the work is very important. Heads Up in the 302, I actually partnered with Clean Slate, ACLU, Second Chances. I started a organization. My organization was basically based on being solution driven. So I started monthly having every month having people come out in Kingswood Community Center and just being in the know. A lot of people did not know anything about expungements or pardons for that matter. But now, the work that we've been doing moving forward, now everyone is automated. It's going to be automated in August, God willing, all that goes through. But it's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So, we're just keeping the movement going, keep moving monthly. I'm working statewide with my motivations towards everyone becoming eligible for expungements and pardons. We just gotta keep up with the good work. And I'm in it to win it statewide, Sussex, Kent, Newcastle County as well. I'm a lived experience person. Been home 8 years now, after doing a substantial amount of time. And there's nothing constant but change. So if people see me and they see change, and we just got to keep moving forward with this great thing that we're doing collectively. I mean, connecting the dots with everything we doing, because at the end of the day, we got to bridge the gap between our elders and the youth. I'm also working at Warner Elementary. I heard the young lady talking about Warner. I'm a proud paraprofessional over at Warner Elementary throughout the day. And when I leave Warner, I just get right to the work of getting our people to start making changes. Changing the mind and the heart. That's what I've been doing.
Thank you so much, Mike. And again, I get so inspired by all the work that y'all do under Smart Justice. Think about, we heard people talking about every step of the criminal legal system, from policing to the courts to prisons to probation to getting that expungement lifted so that doesn't follow you and you can get a second chance. And that's what we do here at the ACLU. We tackle the whole system as best as we possibly can. So thank you all for the work that you're doing. With that, I want to thank all of the presenters. I hope you all learned a lot tonight about the work that the ACLU of Delaware is doing. Melissa will kill me if I don't say, if you were inspired tonight, please, please, please support the ACLU of Delaware. We posted the donate link before, but you can go on our website and support us. Again, this is only possible through all of your generous support. But I want to turn it back over to our illustrious president, Ariel Gruswitz, who's going to talk a little bit about some more business of the evening, because we are renewing some of our board members, right, Ariel?
Yep, thank you, Mike. So I think we have a slide to share with you that shares the 4 members of our board who are going to be renewing for another 3-year term. So we have Akila Aline, Roni Baltazar Lopez, Kate Calperthwaite, and Carmen Twyman. And we want to thank them for their service so far and look forward to working with them over the next 3 years. So with that, I think we are finished, and we've shared a lot of information with you tonight, a lot of ways to get involved if you want to get involved with us, and hope you are inspired by the work that we're doing and are as inspired as we are. So with that, I want to call the meeting to a close and hope that we see you in Delaware.